Thank you for the gentleman right there who gave me that joke like 5 minutes ago. So thank you so much for that joke. I thought you'd enjoy that. Yes. So I tell you that joke because I want you to realize, even though what we talk about here as being a libertarian and caring about government and moving our people forward, we do have to have a sense of humor. We do have to be human. As we grow our movement, what is going to happen is people are going to come into this movement who don't think the way we think, who don't act the way we act, who talk a different way, who don't get us exactly how we'd like them to get us. And when they come to us, what I want us to remember is, don't be angry. Don't be angry, just be human, talk, and connect. Now, I say that because I'm going to bring somebody up right now to kind of be that same way. He was a candidate for governor. He was known as a tax cutter. He saved California a lot of money. He's going to come up here and be human for us tonight. Richard Ryder.
Okay, I have a 3-hour talk. I've cut it down to 1 hour and 20 minutes, and I've been given about 15, so I'm going to talk really, really fast. I'm not a humorist, I'm not a comedian, but I do have some stories that I think are funny to a very small, select group of people, most of whom are in this room today. So I hope you enjoy, but before I get into that, just so you know, I'm the ammo guy. If you're not familiar with what I do, many of you perhaps get my Facebook stuff. I'm a guy who likes to go out and compare California with the other states, compare how we stack up, and of course, as you can imagine, dismally. But I do provide lots of information. I have brought some with me tonight, so if anybody's interested and wants to know how California stacks up, don't read it here. Go home and ingest your preferred recreational drug of choice. Mine's Diet Pepsi, but I'm not judgmental. And don't read too much at one time. It's very depressing. But the other thing I always get asked when I speak is, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And everybody's looking for the magic bullet. I am, you are, we all have that same concern. And there is no magic bullet. But I'll give you the closest thing I've found so far. Because I'm dealing with California, as you are. And there's one thing you need to do. Flee. Gather up your most precious possessions, your favorite grandchildren, perhaps your spouse. This is a good time to call the herd when you make the move, and get the heck out of Dodge. There is no hope for California. I'm frequently introduced as Dr. Doom. I really take umbrage at that. I'm not a doctor. And so we have to deal with that. But just to show you, politics is funny. It's absurd. It's outlandish. And if you learn to enjoy that, you can stick it out. You all know people who've come and gone. They came, thought they'd change the world, got upset, got angry. It was bad for shortened their life expectancy, and they went home. But if you see the humor, you can stay, you can have fun. My situation, I think whenever you go into, if you're going to run for office, you have to really look at who you are and make a decision. I literally didn't do that, and then it kind of caught up with me. Anybody know my name?
Dr. Doom?
A good guess. Anyone else?
Richard Ryder.
That's a good guess too, but what's my old name? Dick Ryder. Or as I was introduced in the 8th grade when we did roll call, Ryder Dick. It wasn't a problem in the first couple of races because nobody paid any attention, but in 2012 I ran for a serious race for county supervisor. I just saved the county taxpayers $3.5 billion in a lawsuit that won in the state Supreme Court. Big deal. Let me tell you, if you win one in your lifetime, be happy because all the rest of them have been dismal failures, I'm sorry. But anyway, the point was, I spent money on thousands of signs. Dick Ryder for supervisor. I became something of a cult figure in the UC system. It's not that my sign showed up just in the UCSD, I'm from San Diego, or San Diego State, or even UCLA. It showed up at UC Davis, it showed up Berkeley. I run into people 20 years later saying, "You're that guy. You're that guy. I still have your sign." That's when I became Richard Ryder. It cost me too much. It was just, but it was a terrible thing. Actually, I got 20% of the vote in a 6-way race, took 3rd place, just out of the running, but I had a shot. I had a rising career, and I changed my name and ruined my brand. And so from that point on, it was downhill. I give talks to Republican groups. Full disclosure, I'm now registered Republican. I'm a full Libertarian member, have been for many years, but I registered Republican for not clear reasons. But they have me come and speak. And they always love to have me come and speak, but they never invite me back. Never. Because what I say is so depressing and oftentimes not very complimentary to the GOP that they don't ask me back, which is too bad. But at the end of every talk, I talk a lot about pensions, overpaying public employees. Our big problem here in California are huge pension unfunded liabilities. You guys don't know all this stuff. At the end, I always ask them, what's the lesson you need to take out of this room tonight? What do we know? What is it that you should be doing? Oh, we got to throw the bums out. Move, that's one of them, of course. But what's the other thing you really should be doing? Does no one know? No. Come on. What should you be doing? Get a government job. They say, this is the only group that wouldn't understand that. You guys don't get it. Now, the truth is, most of you are ill prepared for a government job. You're not emotionally prepared. You are intellectually prepared. You're overprepared. But you're never going to make it as a government employee. So if you don't do that, you might consider the next best thing, which I did. Marry one. I married a career high school teacher, and let me tell you, it was a good decision. We've had a wonderful marriage. Wonderful. How many years we married? 24 years. 24 years. Whoa. 42? Well, that explains a lot. 42? Shit. All right, I'll go with that. It's very interesting. It took about 13 years for me to bring her into the Libertarian quadrant, and it's taken her about 42 years to bring me into the human race. And so we kind of done some trade-offs there. It's worked out pretty well. She has one funny story. She teaches high school, and she taught American literature to 11th grade honors class. And she has this one thing she would do at the students in high school are still very deferential to the teachers. They've been browbeaten and they just believe whatever they're told. So she gets up with this piece of paper and says, the principal has some bad news for you 11th graders. The 12th graders don't have enough points to graduate. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take points from you and give them to the 12th graders. And there's a, and then, well, does that mean we don't get the points ourselves? That's right. We're going to give your points to the 12th graders because they need them. They're needy people, and we need to take care of them. Well, before long, two things happen, and this literally happens. We'll revolt. They really say this is American history we're working on here. And so they were getting the hang of it, but there's always one libertarian in the class. Wait a minute. You sure? Come on. So there's somebody who always eventually figures it out, which is great. But it's a great lead-in to the American Revolution. And I think it was a very telling lesson. That's where you can have fun with politics. I'm going to try to fly along here. My wife and I had only one period of time when things went a little rocky. I stopped working in 1994, spent more time on politics and video games. And as you know, in California, you can't make it on one income. You need two incomes. You really do. And it's a little touchy around the house. But then I got her a second job, and things worked out just... It's true, right? Actually, she got the job herself. And now, see, the neat thing is in a marriage, I can say that, and I'll be alive tomorrow because I got a good woman. God, if you ever find one of these, or man, you need to go to the nearest marry an authority you can find and make them sign something binding, because that is really important. I've had a lot of experiences with the drug debates over the years. Fascinating stuff. I have a ton of these, and we don't have time, but I'll give you one quick one. I was debating somebody from Project DARE. Was scheduled to debate somebody from Project DARE. You know Project DARE, right? They teach fourth graders, drugs are bad. If your parents are using, tell us and we'll turn them, we'll arrest them and get you a nice foster home, that sort of thing. And the night before the debate, the Project DARE person realized they had no clue what they were going to do in a debate about legalization. So they went out and got somebody else. They got a street cop from El Cajon, 20-year street cop busting drug addicts, street sergeant. If any of you remember the old Hill Street Blues or NYPD Blues, I guess it was, Sipowicz. This guy he comes in, and I am in deep shit. If you know anything about debates, your creds are important. How credible are you? And was I credible? No, he was. And what happened was, he gets up, and I'm just, oh man, this is going to be a slaughter. He goes up and he swaggers up, just the way you imagine a self-assured fat old cop. Anyone who thinks we can solve the drug problem without legalizing it is full of shit. Excuse me? Well, he was a well-known authority on the drug problem. They never asked him which side he was on. This is all true. And we had an hour love fest after that. It was just one of the most boring debates you ever saw. It was a wonderful experience. And I had several strange stories like that. One time I debated a guy about prostitution. He was a principal at a Catholic school, a little tiny rinky-dink Catholic school. And I didn't know who he was, but I knew he didn't know what he was talking about, and I was all geared up. Earlier on in my political career, I had never been slaughtered so bad in my life. I've only lost one debate badly. This wasn't even a debate. This was a massacre. And by the time he got through, I was opposed to prostitution. All right. It was amazing. But there was a chapter 2 to this. Later, we got involved together in the issue of school choice, vouchers. And he would take the CTA union leaders who he would debate and destroy them as effectively as he did. Turns out he had a law degree from the University of San Diego. He was a national debating champ. And my God, I've never seen anything like it. So he just murdered them 2 different debates. And then they absolutely refused to debate him anymore. But what we would do, you got to make it interesting. I would go in his place. I would go, I was the person who was designated to debate. I'd show up at the debate. I must have been something I ate. I don't feel very good. I'm going to let this guy come up and take the. They can't get up and leave then. They can't get up. We did it twice to him. That's when life gets fun, and just stay and watch the massacre. It was great stuff. And one other thing, because we're going to be pressed for time here, and I got a lot of stuff, and I'm going to try to tighten it down. Some of you get involved in ballot arguments. By the way, I think that's what the LP should be doing more of. I don't care about your candidates. I do care about your ballot arguments. Props, this is where you need to step in. Join in organizations coalitions that are being formed. Write your own, very important. But it's a dangerous thing to do, and I can talk to you more about that another time. There's legal obligations. You have to make sure what you're saying is the truth. One time, Tom McClintock called me, and they had a statewide proposition. He didn't have time. He said, my office is slammed. You've got to write the ballot argument. We've got 12 hours. And I really didn't have the stuff together, and you just do not want to screw this up. So how can I write a truthful, it has to be absolutely truthful ballot argument. So I found an article by Dan Walters, a columnist for the Sacramento Bee. Many of you have seen his stuff. And he wrote a piece lambasting this tax increase. I think it was for roads. I can't even remember. And what I did was I quoted him. And so in the ballot argument, Dan Walters says, and my memory's a little fuzzy on this, but Dan Walters says that you're a pussy if you vote for this thing. How did he phrase that? And you shouldn't be allowed in a voting booth anywhere. And if you do vote for it, you should burn in hell. Well, yeah, words to that effect, anyway. Well, it doesn't matter what he said exactly. The point was I quoted him. So it didn't matter whether he was right or wrong. The issue is the people signing the ballot argument, is the ballot argument correct? And what I said was, Dan Walters said. And that's legit. That works. The other side was very upset because he made some very strong statements, and we didn't have to back him with facts because all I was doing was quoting someone else. Keep that in mind. There's a lot of little toys, little things you can do like that. Oh, one other thing, just a fun story. One time I got offered a bribe, but it wasn't a bribe because if you're not a public official, it's not a bribe, it's legal. A group of businessmen brought me down to a very posh office. Unfortunately, I had my attorney with me. And they offered me $100,000 in writing if I would keep quiet for 60 days. Just keep quiet. What it was is they wanted to spend, they wanted to push through another initiative to subsidize the downtown business area. And so they wanted to pay me $100,000. And I was polite about it. I don't mind meeting with the opposition. But, you know, I said no and hell no and so forth. And my attorney's there. And then we leave. Okay, that's fine. It was okay. I really don't have a problem with that. But then they started leaking it to the press that I was trying to extort money out of them. But here's the fun part. What they didn't realize is my attorney, who was a sharp cookie, managed to pick up one of the documents that they thought they'd all gotten back. And we had their offer that they had typed up, a 4-page offer. I ended up getting a column in the UT written about me about the most expensive guy in San Diego to say nothing. $1,667 a day to say nothing. And my wife, thank God, agreed with me because that could have been trouble. And it was a great story. Sometimes they blunder into things like that. One other thing, you deal with San Diego tax fighters, or that's my group, is a grassroots group, but every one of you has a county one. Orange County Taxpayer Association, San Diego County Taxpayer Association. Most of them are not, the bigger the city, the worse they are. Bigger the county, they become more and more status. So we tried to replace them, and I filed papers to name our organization, their name was the San Diego County Taxpayer Association, and I filed our name as the San Diego County Taxpayer Association, which is the same name. Their lawyer fell for it and sent us a scathing letter about how we couldn't do that. And we wrote a very nice letter back. Oh, we didn't realize that. We thought since you were no longer a taxpayer organization, you wouldn't mind. And we sent that out to the press, and it was just a funny article. And they just looked like complete idiots. So, you know, find things like that to enjoy in life. It's a fun world out there. We're going to hell in a handbasket. Enjoy the trip. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Dick Ryder, or Ryder, comma, Dick. Sorry, whichever. It's all good. It's funny, he talks about his wife, and I was talking to my wife before I came here, and she said, Larry, please don't try to be too charming. Don't try to be too funny. You know, just be yourself. So I know, haha, funny on me, but I want to say something here that's a little bit more serious here, and that is I want to talk about, does anybody happen to know the book, The Purple Cow by Seth Godin? Anyone know that book? You know that book? You've heard of it before? It's a book that Seth Godin wrote when regarding him and his wife. They were driving in a car, and they were in the farmland that they hadn't been in for a while. He's a New Yorker, and he drove by, and he noticed a brown cow, and he thought, oh, it's amazing, a brown cow, so nice. Oh, wow, great, exciting, I've never seen cows. Then he saw a white cow, oh, awesome, white cow. Then he saw a brown cow, like, oh, great, and a black cow, great. Then eventually, oh, brown cow, white cow, brown, who cares, cows, who cares? What he said then, wouldn't it be great, wouldn't it be amazing if he saw a purple cow? That would not be typical. If he saw a purple cow. And he wrote a book based on that called The Purple Cow, saying this is how people stand out, people who are not typical. The man I want to talk about really fast today is someone who is not typical. He's not your typical judge. He's a judge that in the 90s had a press conference to talk about how bad the war on drugs was. He's a judge who was in the Peace Corps. He's a judge who talked many years ago about how wrong it was to have mandatory minimums. And when I met him first in 2015 in person, I thought, of course, when I see him speak, he'll talk about criminal justice or something like that. No, he talked about what mattered to him most, education, because that mattered, and he cares about the future of this nation and the future of our children. But more important, I saw him again in Cornell about less than a year ago, maybe 6 months ago. And he came to Cornell, went out of his way, and came to Cornell for one reason: because someone asked him. That's the reason why. Not to push a book, not to raise money, because someone asked him to show up, so he did. So I drove 4 hours from my house to go see him, because he matters that much to me. And on a personal note, 2012, when I voted for him as the vice presidential nominee, it was the first time in my entire adult life that I really felt I was voting for someone that it was not the lesser of two evils, it was the good. And that is the good man who is Judge Jim Gray.
That is so nice of you, and thank you all. I'm gratified. I have 3 functions tonight. I was able to spout off earlier today, so I talked about libertarians, and I'm proud to be a libertarian. I use that word, I use my libertarian values anytime I can, because we are in the mainstream of American political thought today. It's just that people don't know that. People have labeled us in different ways. But I have 3 functions this evening. One is not to take a lot of time, and one is not to try to match Richard over here, but to, first of all, to maybe share a couple of thoughts as to where we're going and how we should get there. Number 2 is to raise some money for libertarian candidates, because it's fine to have good candidates, and we do. We don't have enough of them, but we certainly have good candidates. And the third is to introduce my great friend and a great patriot and a great American, former Congressman Tom Campbell. Those are my functions tonight. So the first is, as citizens of the United States of America, we have enormous benefits, and we don't need to go through them. It's the greatest country in the world from my standpoint, and remains so. But we also have responsibilities. And what might those be? Well, number 1 is to serve on juries in the case that you are called. In fact, I'm supposed to be on jury duty a week from Monday. No one will ever accept me, but I'll go anyway. Number 2 is not to vote in elections, because high voter turnout from my standpoint is not a victory, but to be an educated voter. Educate yourself on the issues, on the candidates. Vote however you will, but at least be educated when you do it. Number 3 is to pay your taxes, and I know the taxes are too high, but that's a different issue. But number 4, and the reason I'm bringing this up is, 4th obligation that we have as citizens of this country is to make the system work. And we wherever we are and whatever station we're in an opportunity on occasion to make the system work. To use an individual example, and Larry just kind of talked about, I was on a speaking tour. I was at Cornell. I was also at Columbia University. And Columbia happens to be really close to the Grant's tomb. And so I hadn't been there since 1957. I'm not going to tell you how old I was at the time. But so I walked over there, and I looked at Grant's tomb, and it was great. It was wonderful, inspirational. But on the outside, there was something that was really, I don't know how many of you know who Gaudí is from Barcelona, an architect, but it was just lots of bright tile work. It was really neat. But it was a bench surrounding about 270 degrees around Grant's tomb, and it was full of leaves. It was run by the National Park Service, and in fact, the sign for the National Park Service was on its side, and there were weeds growing up through it. and I took some pictures of it and thought, you know something, this isn't right. So I wrote a letter to the head of the National Park Service and said, wait a minute, you know, I believe I quoted Bob Dylan. You're either busy being born or busy dying. And that's true with a person and it's true with a country. And it's not going to be shown that our country is busy dying because we're not going to let our jewels, our national parks, go to seed like this. So I sent him this and said, this will not happen. And within 2 weeks, I had some friends back from Columbia University, went over there. I got a response from the National Park Service. Yes, I agree with Bob Dylan also. And it's not a question of money, but we're going to have this stuff addressed. And we can all do that. Why am I bringing that up here? Because we as libertarians have a way to make the system work, to spread our message, because we are in the mainstream of American political thought and political activity. Others don't know it, but we can do this. We have really good people at our disposal. You know, we have, in fact, we heard them earlier, you know, Nicholas and Zoltan, really good candidates that they deserve to be supported by us. We have Lloyd Princeton here. Lloyd, stand up for half a moment. He is running for Congress in Albuquerque, in New Mexico. A really good candidate. I'm supporting him. I've offered to help wherever I can. He deserves our support. We have Larry Sharp, by the way, who happens to be our moderator tonight. Larry, all right. I am supporting Larry. I've donated to him, and every month I am on his list to be donating. Governor Bill Weld, sitting down here. Governor, you know, thank you for being here. You're a wonderful candidate and a wonderful patriot. We really appreciate that. We have Ted Brown, by the way, who deserves a little bit of appreciation for what he's been doing and all of this. Ted, you know, thank you for that. Indeed so. All right, that's enough. That's enough. Hey, but speaking of appreciation, you've maybe heard of him, a fellow by the name of Nick Sarwark, goes around the country, heads our Libertarian. Nick, you're doing a great job. Thank you. You deserve the appreciation that we can give to you. There are a lot of other people behind the scenes, and some of them are here now. Boomer is here. Elizabeth is here. Mark is here. You know, these people work behind the scenes. They're not the candidates, but we as candidates can't function without these people. I was blessed to be your candidate for vice president in 2012, and I went around the country, and I have people meet me at the airports, and they would devote their own personal time. They'd pay their own gas. They'd put themselves up in their own, and they were wonderful people. I put these people up against anyone in the country. There just aren't enough of us. We need to spread this word. And how do we do it? We raise money. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm going to try to raise some money for our candidates right now. I'm going to voluntarily donate $500 to the Libertarian candidates if and only if I have 9 other people to join me. Who else will join me in donating $500 so that we can have these candidates? 1, thank you. 2, thank you. 3, thank you. 4, thank you. 5, more? Come on, we got 6, thank you. 7, thank you. 3 more? 8, thank you. 2 more, and we have 5,000. 9, thank you. 1 to put us over the top. 10, and thank you for that. So donating $500 to each of these candidates will help us do that. My own small addition, I have a book. It's called A Voter's Handbook, Effective Solutions to America's Problems. It's a book. It doesn't mention libertarians. Oh, yes, it does. But it talks about libertarian solutions. If people would like to donate, I've brought 20 of these books tonight. I will sign them for you. If you'll come up to my table and give me whatever check you wish for the Libertarian Party, I'm just trying to raise a little bit more money for this. So now to the real reason that I'm here, because we have an enormous patriot here in this Way of Lots. But one of them in particular, the featured speaker tonight. You know, someone that went to Washington, was there for 12 years, and was doing God's work, doing our work. He is a man who thereafter has what? Oh, done a few things. Maybe he's headed the business school at the University of California. Maybe he was the dean of the Chapman University Law School, a wonderful person. He writes regularly for the Orange County Register, and it's syndicated. It goes elsewhere as well. This man has the information, has the background, has the caring, and has the intellect that we should all listen to, and we are about to listen to, Representative Tom Campbell. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much for that exceptionally gracious introduction. I'll have a few more words to say about Jim Gray at the end of my remarks. In Congress and in every public office, hundreds of decisions are made every day of which the public is unaware. No candidate for office can ever anticipate even the majority of the specific contexts in which she or he will be asked to cast a vote or make a decision. Hence, it is vital that we select public leaders who are driven by principles, transparent and announced in advance, and held to, even when to do so is against that person's immediate advantage. Virtue is measured by what you do when no one is looking. In this regard, no party in recent times has rivaled the Libertarian Party. I cannot claim to state the libertarian political philosophy. That is for you, the members of the Libertarian Party. But I can tell you what principles guided my decisions when I was in the United States Congress, when I was in the California State Senate, and when I was Director of Finance for the state of California. And then you can judge whether you actually had a Libertarian congressman, a Libertarian state senator, or a Libertarian state director of finance. Here are the rules I followed. Number one, spend no more than you have. Live within your means. I drafted that as a California constitutional amendment when I was Director of Finance for the state of California. The legislature refused even to have a vote on it. When this was presented as an initiative in November of 2005, the public employee unions vigorously opposed it, and it was defeated. Number two, escrow for existing liabilities and be cautious about creating new ones. Number three, when anyone proposes a new project for government, ask if it is capable of being performed instead in the private sector. And if so, vote no. Number four, refuse to be guided by the question, is this idea for a new government program beneficial? Ask instead, is it necessary? And if it is not, vote no. Number five, there's virtually no government program that could not find 5% of waste if you really looked at it seriously. Number six, never sacrifice liberty for security. I have a poignant memory. I have a poignant memory of State Senator Maurice Johannesson from Reading, who served with me when I was a state senator. The bill on the California State Senate floor would install cameras at intersections throughout our state. It was argued that cameras would be an efficient means of traffic control. But Senator Johansson opposed it. He did not want government taking pictures of us. In a speech on the Senate floor, he spoke about his life growing up in Norway. He was an American by choice, an immigrant from Norway. And when he was a teenager, his country was invaded by the Nazis. He joined the resistance and blew up telegraph poles that the Nazis used to communicate. Senator Johannesson urged us not to vote for the television cameras. He said the Nazis kept close watch on the people of Norway, and he was not going to allow anything to make it easier for the government to watch us in California. Last month, the United States Department of Justice revived its demand that all smartphones and similar devices sold or made in America contain an electronic back door allowing government access. This demand had most famously been advanced to get Apple to break into the smartphone of the San Bernardino mass murderer in 2016. You know, I don't doubt that the federal government could better intercept potential terrorists by listening in to all our conversations all the time. Encryption must be such an inconvenience to them. Some in law enforcement might wish that they could dispense with that pesky Fourth Amendment as well, requiring search warrants. Indeed, I'm sure we could make our cities and towns much safer if the police could arrest whomever they suspected and search wherever they wished. But the public policy argument should never be framed in terms of, will this help us keep secure? Tyranny can keep us secure. We need to ask, will this keep us free? Number 7, don't separate us by race. There is no benign use of race by government. Affirmative action that gives a benefit to members of one race necessarily takes something away from those who are not of the favored race. Euphemisms should be a warning sign. When state universities say they are not giving racial preferences, they're just administering holistic admission policies. Ask if the minimum required SAT score is different depending on the student's race. February 21, 2015, the Los Angeles Times reported a study that Asian Americans must score 50 points higher on the SAT than Caucasian Americans in order to get into college. Hispanics could get into college with 185 points less on their SAT. African Americans with 230 points less. I authored legislation as a state senator to ban the use of race for admissions and for all other purposes at UC, CSU, and the community colleges of California. The bill was defeated. 2 years later, the voters of California adopted Proposition 209, outlawing the use of race in all aspects of state government, including admission to public universities. In response, state universities began to adopt holistic admission policies, perpetuating race preference to this day. Number 8, our founders were very suspicious of wars. The Constitution's requirement that Congress declare war was designed because our founders thought people who had to stand for election every 2 years would be less, not more willing to commit our nation to war. Perhaps the most eloquent expression of this concern was raised during the Mexican War by Congressman Abraham Lincoln. Quote, "Kings had always been involving and impoverishing their people in wars, pretending generally, if not always, that the good of the people was the object. This our constitutional convention understood to be the most oppressive of all kingly oppressions, and they resolved to so frame this Constitution that no one man should hold the power of bringing that oppression upon us." End quote. In the United States Congress, I had occasion to put that warning into practice. President Clinton bombed Belgrade, Yugoslavia, for 79 days in the summer of 1999. He did so without asking for or receiving the approval of Congress. Under the War Powers Resolution, any member of Congress can bring to the floor a motion to enforce the provisions of the War Powers Resolution. I demanded that the House take a vote on America's bombing of Yugoslavia. The House voted, and they voted against authorizing the bombing. In urging that the Constitution required a vote of Congress before we went to war, I was proud to have had the support of the American Legion and the veterans of foreign wars, but most in particular, the support of Congressman Sam Johnson of Texas. Sam could not hold a pen in his right hand because it was crippled from the torture he had endured as a POW in North Vietnam. Congressman Johnson said he was proud to have served in our armed forces and to have suffered torture as a POW because of his belief in America, and above all, in America's Constitution. And that Constitution required we never go to war without a vote of the people's representatives in Congress. President Clinton bombed Yugoslavia without congressional approval. President Obama bombed Libya without congressional approval. President Trump has fired missiles into Syria without congressional approval. To his credit, President George H.W. Bush sought and obtained approval from Congress before pushing Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, and his son did the same before invading Iraq. The two Bush presidents were the exceptions. Far more common is for presidents to go to war without a vote of Congress. And the reason is that Congress allows the president to get away with it. When I brought the vote over Yugoslavia to the House floor, both the Republican Speaker, Denny Hastert, and the Democratic leader, Dick Gebhardt, urged me not to do so. Speaker Hastert's representative told me the following: if this war goes well, we can claim credit for it because we appropriated money in the defense budget. But if it goes badly, well, we can blame it on President Clinton. Dick Gebhardt commented that the Democrats had allowed George H.W. Bush to go to war in Kuwait. Now it was the Republicans' duty to allow Bill Clinton to go to war in Yugoslavia. Both pointed out that members of the House would more likely win re-election if we didn't take on big, controversial issues. My reply then, as it remains today, is that a congressman does not take an oath to be popular or to be reelected, but to uphold and defend the Constitution. Number 9, don't go to war to make other countries better. There are times when America has no choice but to go to war, but there are far more examples where America, for the sake of helping other nations and their peoples, has gone to war, to our later regret. That motive explained President George W. Bush's goal in invading Iraq, President Obama's decision to bomb Gaddafi in Libya, and President Trump's shooting missiles into Syria. If the purpose of the United States military is to replace tyrants around the world who have oppressed their people, I could make a long list of countries where our troops would be engaged and we would have time and resources for nothing else. Number 10, once you are convinced that a government program might be necessary, insist on regular cost-benefit analysis and insist on a sunset. If a regulation works out to be necessary, it will be easy to justify under a cost-benefit test. We live today in California with state regulations adopted 40 years ago, and in the federal system, some adopted over 50 years ago. Justify them again or repeal them. Number 11, consumption taxes are preferable to income taxes because people choose to pay them or not. Sales taxes should never be included in the purchase price of an item. They should be separately posted, known to the consumer, who can then choose to pay them or not by deciding to buy the good or not. For taxes that come without any choice of our paying for them, like income taxes, we should make every effort to draw attention to them, to remind our state's residents of what they are forced to pay. Milton Friedman was my faculty advisor when I got my PhD in economics at the University of Chicago. St. Milton of Friedman opposed income tax withholding. Withholding was considered a great improvement on the efficiency of collecting taxes, but in Milton Friedman's eyes, that was no virtue. Taxes should be obvious, in the face of individual citizens, so that the citizens would never lose focus on how much of their earnings were being taken by government. Number 12, abolish the federal income tax. Repeal the 16th Amendment. I actually introduced that bill in the United States House of Representatives. It was sent to the Subcommittee on Constitutional Amendments of the Judiciary Committee, also known as the Bermuda Triangle. Good ideas went in and were never seen again. But think about it for a moment. There is no greater intrusion on individual privacy than the federal income tax. In filling out our tax returns, we tell the government personal details about our lives that we would not even share with family members. Make up the lost revenue with a national sales tax instead. Number 13, help the needy by bringing them up, not by leveling down. The politics of envy is a pathology in our country's public debate today. The push towards socialized medicine is a good illustration. We need to provide health care for those who cannot afford it. The worst way of doing so, however, is to abolish incentives for the improvement in the creation and delivery of therapies, pharmaceuticals, and the cures that exist only because of the free market. I never understood the attraction of equality for equality's sake, where equality means a lower level of service for everybody. Number 14, it is insulting to tell parents that they should not be entrusted with decisions about their children's education. There is much to criticize in both the Republican and Democratic parties, but on the Democratic side of the ledger, abandoning children to failing schools in the service of public employee unions is the hardest to forgive. Number 15. The minimum wage results in unemployment among the most vulnerable. The minimum wage punishes employers who offer jobs to those most in need of them. A job at a low wage beats no job every time. If we want to help those making low wages, then we should spend the money to do so through a tax on all of us, not a penalty imposed only on employers who hire the needy. The earned income tax credit is for that reason strongly superior to the minimum wage. 16 and last, when in doubt choosing between competing proposed public policies, I would always ask which alternative more enhances freedom. America has a unique place in the history of the world. As a country, we've provided the greatest amount of individual liberty and built the most successful engine for creation of opportunity that the world has ever seen. It is amazing to me that so many voices in our country are nevertheless raised in favor of socialism and critical of free market capitalism, especially by students and professors at universities. Which one of them would willingly change place with a citizen of Venezuela, Cuba, or North Korea? I want to conclude with a true story from my time in Congress, which not only shows the principle that libertarians in Congress hold, but also makes a plausible claim to prove that God looks after libertarians. The proof is irrefutable. From time to time, Congress votes to award gold medals to honor not only Americans, but great citizens of the world. Despite the longevity of this practice, there is no provision in the United States Constitution for Congress to do so. And so, in all my years in Congress, I consistently voted against any resolution to award a gold medal despite the merits of any given awardee. Our federal government is a government of limited, specified powers. If it's not specified, the federal government can't do it. On June 2, 1997, a resolution came to the House floor to award a gold medal to Mother Teresa. Saint Teresa of California, of Calcutta. Now, it's one thing to vote no on a gold medal for Frank Sinatra, which I did, but quite another to jeopardize your soul's eternal salvation by voting no on Mother Teresa. My congressional staff was delighted with my agony. I'd frequently spoken about the virtue of consistent adherence to principle, but here was a true test. My staff knew I went to Catholic schools. They had heard me speak about being taught by nuns. As I left my office to go to the House floor to vote, I did not tell my staff how I would vote. When I arrived, there were already 200 votes in favor, none opposed. In the House, the votes go up on a screen, and you can see the vote tally. Exactly. Oh, my God. Precisely the right thing to say. There were 200 votes in favor, none opposed. Well, you have 15 minutes to cast your vote. You have this automatic card that you put into the machine. I waited. I watched the vote total rise. 200 to 0 climbed to 300 to 0, then 350 to 0, then 350 to 1. Congressman Ron Paul of Texas the father of today's Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky had voted no. Now, I'd never discussed this with him, but there was his vote up on the electronic board. No on Mother Teresa. 433 to 1. Time was running out. If I were to join him, the congressional record would show 2 no votes on the resolution to honor Mother Teresa. 433 to 2. I imagined the consequences. The Washington Post would want to know what we had against Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa herself might hear of this. And most important, when I died and tried to get into heaven, St. Peter would ask me about it. All these thoughts were going through my mind. And then the voting machines broke. For the first and only time during all my years in Congress, the voting machines broke. The machine stopped. The red, green, and yellow lights all went off. The screen went dark. The speaker announced that he did not know why, but the voting machines having ceased to function, he declared the vote would now be taken by voice. And that he heard nothing but support for a gold medal for Mother Teresa. And so the gold medal went down in the records of the House of Representatives as having been awarded unanimously to Mother Teresa. Ron Paul and I were saved by divine intervention from the consequence of our own libertarian principles. It's been an honor to address you at your convention this evening. That honor was made even more special by the fact that I shared this podium with Judge Jim Gray. I've known him for a quarter century. There's no finer public servant, no finer representative of the Libertarian Party, and no more principled leader on our national scene than Jim Gray. Thank you for the warm welcome you've given my wife Suzanne and me this evening. Good night.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. And I have to do a little bit of business if I can here. The Honorable Judge Jim Gray did ask certain people to match his $500. Those people who did, could you put your hand in the air again? Awesome. There are sheets on the table if you want to fill those out, or instead match his check, which he has right now. If you can take care of those right now so we can collect those if you don't mind. Thank you if you can take care of that right now. Thank you. Angela, could you collect if you don't mind? Thank you. She'll be going around collecting. I also want to announce and just kind of recognize, again, we do have Ed and Alicia Clark here. Thank you so much for coming to our convention. Thank you so much. In addition, I do want to just acknowledge Chris Roofer, who was a sponsor here but couldn't make it because of work commitments. So I'm going to thank him and people from his foundation who came. Thank you so much for that. Yes, thank you. Also, I want you to know that the bookstore is open across the hall once this is over. If you want to grab a couple of books, it is open over there. Please go ahead and enjoy. We talked earlier, when Zoltan was up here, about the idea of us living longer. And I think it's an important thing that we will be living longer. I actually heard once that the person who will live past 200 may have already been born. I saw that on some website. I also remember one of my friends, he was concerned. He was at his doctor, and his doctor actually told him, he said, you have a terminal disease. He said, you have 10 remaining. And he said, 10 what? 10 years, weeks, days? He said, 9. So, all right. Come on, that was good, guys. Come on. All right. Thank you, knee slapper. I appreciate that. Yes, I should have a rim shot here. Yes, good. In addition, last piece I want to bring up, the Honorable Judge Jim Gray does have his books there. If you want to grab a couple to sign, that'd be awesome. All right, I do want to bring up, though, there's someone else I want to bring up today. Someone else who I made more than one vote for a very important and valuable and special vice president who was Libertarian. It wasn't just the Honorable Judge Jim Gray. It was another gentleman who I voted for in 2016. Someone who has been going around the country and supporting candidates, supporting the party, bringing more to this party than I think a lot of people expected. And he's going to come up and do it again, and that is Governor Bill Weld.
Thank you so much, Larry, and it's wonderful for me and my wife Leslie to be here. Thank you for the welcome, and yes, Tom Campbell, you are a libertarian. No question about it. So I'd like to take just a few minutes, 8 to be specific, to sketch out what I think we need to do as a party between now and the November 2020 election. And I'm talking about what the party needs to do, meaning all of us. I'm not talking about who specifically should do it. I do think it's fair to say that things are coming our way in the country at large. And the number one thing we need to do by November 2020 is to elect a libertarian president of the United States. This is entirely feasible. People all over the country are getting sick and tired of how the R Party and the D Party, in Washington have long since stopped doing business for we the people, and they've retreated to self-perpetuation in office, and all they really care about is serving the well-heeled special interests who are going to bankroll their campaigns and thus return them to office, which is the holy grail for them. And people really don't like it. They're not stupid, the American people. They understand what's going on. My own view is that both the R Party and the D Party are splitting in half right now. They just don't know it yet. And I think the cycle ending in November 2020 is going to show that for at least one of them, if not both. I would also say, while I am in scolding vein, that both of these parties are nanny state parties. Once upon a time, long ago and far away in Houston, Texas, at a Republican National Convention, I took the podium as a relatively newly elected governor and said, well, I want the government out of your pocketbook and out of your bedroom. And this was too much for the Pat Buchanan delegates in the front row. They stood up and booed for a long time, lustily. You know, the Democratic Party is only too happy to be in your pocketbook, taxing you to death, and the Republican Party is even more happy to be in your bedroom, lecturing you about your personal conduct and the personal choices you make, what John Stuart Mill called self-regarding conduct. So the second thing we need to keep in mind going into 2020 is money. I remind you all that Governor Gary Johnson in 2016 was 13 points in the national polls just shortly before the presidential debates. And this was too much for the R Party and the D Party, and they dumped about, I don't know, tens of millions of unrebutted paid advertising on our heads. And Gary's 13% went to 5% in 10 days, because you can't be dark in the face of that kind of onslaught. So this time, we're going to need to have, as a party, $50 million or $100 million in the bank at the beginning of the campaign against such a contingency to make sure that the party gets into those presidential debates, not the $15 million in total, which is what we had in the 2016 cycle. So that's going to require a lot of advanced preparation. Finally, procedurally, in order to make these things stick, we're going to need election reforms. I filed a suit in federal court in Massachusetts about a month ago to compel reform of the way the states handle their electors. And the Constitution gives the states a lot of leeway there, but there's a state case came out of Ohio. Hugo Black in the Supreme Court wrote the decision saying, yeah, you can do what you want with your electors, but you can't violate equal protection. One person, one vote. Well, the premise of our suit is I'm a libertarian Republican. I never get any representation in the electors from Mass because they always go to the Dem because it's a one-party state, so I'm not represented. And that is squarely within the reason of Judge Hugo Black's decision. We also filed in 3 other states. In Texas, the plaintiff was a Democrat. There was another red state where the plaintiff was a Democrat, and there's a California case, a companion case where the plaintiff is a Republican. This has a shot to have some real legs. And the punchline is, if that system that we're contending for, namely proportional representation according to the vote you get, had been in effect in 2016, Gary Johnson would have had 17 electoral votes. Because we got, 3, 4, in some cases 9, 10% of the vote in every state, so we never got an electoral vote, but if you add them all up percentage-wise, Gary would have had 17 electoral votes. When we started, if we thought we were going to get 17 electoral votes, we thought that was going to throw the election into the House. So this is not an inconsequential thing. So we're going to need a platform on issues to run on, and the only thing I really have to say about that is that we should be clear and we should press the points and not be diffident at all. And that way we will cut through the clutter, and clutter there will be. So cut taxes, cut spending. The only way really to cut taxes, which is my #1 priority, is to cut spending. And the Constitution of every state in the United States except for Vermont, which of course is Bernie Sanders' country, requires the state to have a balanced budget. And there's no such requirement on the federal government. There should be a balanced budget amendment. So we should insist on no more deficit spending at the federal level, and the federal government doing what everybody does in our households, which is to live within our means. That would be a long, cool drink of water. This sounds like it's hard, but it's really not hard. I mean, I came into office in Mass right after Mike Dukakis. The state was called Taxachusetts everywhere in the country, and we cut taxes 21 times and never raised them. because we cut spending. I was voted the most conservative fiscally in the United States by Cato and the Wall Street Journal because we cut spending in absolute dollars. And the result was that the unemployment rate went from the highest of the 11 industrial states down to the lowest because the economy boomed, because the economy loves tax cuts. So it's the opposite of what all the doomsayers predicted, and it was just great for Massachusetts. Another important issue, and I follow previous speakers on this, is privatization of government services. I was chair of the U.S. Privatization Council when I was in office because I believe there's very few things that the private sector can't do more efficiently than government. And it's not just public versus private, it's competition versus monopoly. And I think, yeah. So the time has long since passed to end the government monopoly on the provision of, for example, social services. We took almost more than half of our social services budget, developmentally disabled, mentally ill, et cetera, people who were living in big red brick buildings with bars on the windows and were regarded as prisoners. We put them into assisted living houses, no more than 11 to a house, 4 staffers for 11, much improved staffing ratio, and incredibly more dignity for the recipients of the social services at a cost of 60% of the government program. So we saved like almost more than $500 million on a budget of 14 there. And that, I think, could be done throughout state government. Education is an issue that's ineluctable. There's plenty to do there. It's pretty obvious. Number one, abolish the United States Department of Education. And everything else should be non-controversial, too. Charter schools, school choice by parents, homeschooling, online education, and in my experience, very important, insisting on standards and accountability for moving to the next grade and for graduation from high school. Massachusetts, which have been in the second half, 26, 27, 28, in reading and math scores before we put in high-stakes tests and standards and accountability in 1993, has been number 1 in the United States in both reading and mathematics every year since 1993. And that's a cause and effect principle that could be of interest to the federal government as well. A couple more and I'm going to let you go. Drugs, obviously we need to deschedule cannabis as a Class 1 narcotic in Washington, D.C. I'm happy to say 2 weeks ago I went on the board of a cannabis company with former Republican Speaker John Boehner of Ohio, who had said in 2011, I am unalterably opposed to the legalization of marijuana at any point under any circumstances. And, you know, he listened to, when you're in the House, you have to listen to your constituents. And he listened, and he saw that 94% of the people in the United States want medicinal marijuana now. 61% want full legal rec. And he said, okay, I get the joke. I'm on for this. And within 3 days, the Trump administration had said, hold the presses, stop the mail. We want comments on descheduling marijuana as a Class 1 narcotic in Washington, D.C. One day after that, 4 days after Boehner and I took the plunge, and by the way, Boehner's the two-headed cow, not me, because he was really against MJ. I was for medicinal marijuana in 1992 for relief of nausea from chemotherapy and glaucoma. So Boehner was the one who pushed this, but he's the purple cow and then some. So it's worth a lot. We did 1 week of radio and TV in New York. We got 1 billion eyeballs with a B. So that's 3 for every man, woman, and child in the United States of America. We also have to, speaking of drugs, we have to treat addiction of any kind, whether it's alcohol or narcotics, as the public health emergency that it's now become, not as a criminal justice enforcement priority, which it used to be when I was a lad. Guns, we got 300 million rifles out there, and need I add, lawfully acquired rifles. And, you know, I think, again, the day is not far distant when we're going to have a societal consensus that those guns are not going anywhere. And, you know, we just can't have ambiguity about that. At the end of the 2016 campaign, I said, Gary, let me go to South Dakota and Alaska. I've never been there before, so I did. I went to South Dakota. I went to the town of Deadwood, where there's all kinds of great Old West paraphernalia, and I bought myself a sweatshirt with this great picture of Geronimo, the Indian leader. He's grinning, and he's holding his rifle over his head like this, and you think, boy, he's like doing a victory lap there. And there's two lines across the sweatshirt. The top is, turn in your weapons, and he seems to be holding his rifle, saying, I'm going to turn it in, and he's grinning. And the bottom says, the government will protect you. Didn't work out so well for Geronimo. And the fact is that all around the world, history has many examples of that sort of thing, where societies were persuaded to lay down all their weapons and they were enslaved. Almost, well, pretty quickly thereafter. Finally, one thing I think that we should ask in 2020 and before then, my favorite foreign policy question, why are we in Afghanistan? There's no answer. So there are 80,000 troops there, and we were asked during the 2016 campaign, should they come home? And Gary and I said, no and hell no. Why should we not bring them home? And they should come home, we said. And people said, no, we can't do that, or things will be just like they were before. So we said, well, when can they come home? Never? Does never work with you? Because never is obviously what people had in mind. So it's just not, it's not thought through. And I would love to see the day come when a government in Washington sees conditions reported in another country that they don't agree with, they just don't like, because they don't like the attitude towards, you know, classes of citizens in that country, where their first reaction, their default position is not regime change and U.S. boots on the ground. That would be a great service we could make to American foreign policy. So it's pretty clear that it's time for a third party to break through in this next quadrennial cycle. In fact, it's pretty clear to me it's time for the Libertarian Party to be that party and break through. And the candidate could be Larry Sharpe, who's already a national figure and is all around the country. But whoever it is, let's go to it. Thank you, ladies and gents. Thanks, guys.
So thank you all. I do want to bring one more person up, but I have one more bit of business if I could. Is there anyone who pledged but hasn't given yet? Angela is looking for you. There we go, right over here. Over here too? Two, right here. Are we all right? Thank you. I do want to bring one more person up if I could, and that is, you know, we're talking about the Libertarian Party moving forward and how well it's doing. Well, someone's at the head of it, and that's my friend, Nicholas Ulrich.
Isn't that fun? I find it fun. I don't know if you guys find it fun. It's hilarious for me. I can stand here and not say anything, and you'll just look at me. It's power. I want to first of all thank Bill for leaving water up here, because I could use some. Today, while I was sitting in the lobby, probably drinking a beer, you all did a lot of business as the California Libertarian Party in the room next door. Some of that was acrimonious, or so I've heard. I wasn't there. This is probably one of the best attended California Libertarian Party conventions in the history of the Libertarian Party. And this is not as I said the other night, you're not special. You're completely ordinary. Because across the entire country, Libertarian State Party conventions are filling up with people more than we've ever had before. There is a tipping point in political reality where we shift from impossible to inevitable. It's a nice shift if you're on the right side of it. If your party's the one that's dying, it feels really bad. And I'll take a moment of silence for the Democratic and Republican parties if you want. I'm sorry, I shed all my tears before. We're ascendant. You have candidates running up and down the ballot in California. You have great candidates for governor. We had a spectacular debate. You have candidates for state assembly, for Congress, for Senate. You have candidates who are willing to go out for you and represent the libertarian view on the ballot. They're willing to go out into their communities and say, you know, there's a better way to do politics where we don't fight over which one of us gets to steal your money and give it to our friends, because those other bad people wanted to steal your money and give it to their friends, but they're bad and we're good. We're different from that. It's refreshing. And those people who are willing to step up and go out and take time away from their lives and their families and their jobs to represent that deserve your applause. Right now. I know it's late. It's after a banquet. Not everybody got coffee. You all should have, but you'll get there. The people that are willing to step up are doing a great service. And one of the things that we can do, and I'm seeing more around the country that we're doing, is all of us who are invigorated by this are stepping up as well. Those of us who don't have the time or the wherewithal, or we're just not good people, smell funny, look funny, act funny, can't talk, whatever, we still believe in what we're doing. We believe in the idea that our children and our grandchildren should grow up in a country that's freer than the one that we grew up in. We believe in the idea that the American experiment that we started so long ago is not dead, it's not dying, it's being reborn. We believe in the idea that this ship can be turned around, that the people who broke it don't have the commitment that we have to fix it. You can't beat someone that doesn't quit. It's not possible. And every one of you in this room are here because you don't quit. And all those people who have stepped up for the Libertarian Party of California to run for office, to go to Sacramento, to provide the idea that maybe, just maybe, bear with me on this, the government shouldn't spend more money than they have, and they should go out of their way to let people run their own lives unless there's a compelling need otherwise. That attitude can be part of what makes California go through a rebirth. The same kind of rebirth we want the whole country to go through. California was where people wanted to come. This was the place that was the promised land. This was paradise. And like Governor Weld talked about Massachusetts, they took a wrong turn somewhere. California's taken a couple of wrong turns. But the Libertarian Party and libertarians can turn it around. And the best way to do that is to go out there and be on the ballot, be in the community, be at the fairs, be at the parades, go out and knock on the doors and tell people there is a better way. But these people can't do that for you without you. You need to step up and support them. I was just talking to Mimi, she's sitting next to me, so it's easy. It's only $1,000 for the filing fee, which is relatively small comparatively, but it's $5,600 $5,600 to put a 250-word statement, and if I wasn't a lawyer, I'd probably be able to figure out that that's about $200 a word, on the voter information pamphlet. That's a ridiculous amount of money per word, isn't it? $200 a word. I mean, what we would need to do is have everybody in here just raise their hand and say, I'm going to pay for one word in Mimi's statement, and it wouldn't quite be enough. So we're going to need more than that. But those words are going to reach State Assembly in California, what, 200,000-ish people? 100,000-ish people? 250,000-ish people. So yes, it's $200 a word. But those words go out to 250,000 people. Those words about freedom and liberty reach so many hearts and minds to show people that there's a better way. So tonight, before you leave, I want you to think, what's it worth to me? What's it worth to my kids? What's it worth? What would you do if your children were as sick as this state is, and you needed money to help them, to heal them? How deep would you dig to do that? Something to think about. Larry?
What an amazing segue that was, because I have a way you can do that. I have an amazing book here by Harry Brown. So you may know this book. It's The Great Libertarian Offer, and here's the best part about it: autographed by himself. Autographed by himself. Now I'm going to ask anyone in this room who might want to pick this book up, autographed by Harry Brown, and anything you purchase this book for will go right to Libertarian Party of California. Who will take this book, support these candidates like we talked about, and move this party forward starting tonight, starting tomorrow? Who will do that for the low price of $50? $50. $50. 50, I love that. Who will go to $75? $75. Who will go to $100? 100. Who will go to 150? 150. 150. Who will go to 200? Who will go to 250? 250. Who will go to $300? $300. 350. $350 for this book. $300 right now. But look, you don't want him getting it. Come on. Come on. He's not even from California. You don't want to do that. $350, that's what I thought. $350. Who'll go $400? $400 for this? $400. There we go. $400. Look, it is signed by him. Exactly right. $400. The best part about this book, you put this on your coffee table, people go, who's Harry Brown? Nice guy. Conversations, conversations. Right now, $400. Who will go 450? 450. $400 right here. Who will go 450? 450 going. $400 is going to get this book. And you're not going to have it. Only him. $400. 450 going once. I'm sorry, $400 going once. $400 going twice. It's going to be done if someone wants to pick it up right now. It's the only one I got, guys. Sold $400. Thank you so much. But I do have something else. It's not the same as that. I mean, that was amazing. This is nice. This is The Haiku Economist by Jim Cox. You don't like that one? Oh, he doesn't like that one. Okay, I'm sorry. This one isn't signed. However, the person who edited it is in the room. And she will actually sign it for you if you like. Not just that, I will sign it if you want. And I was ready. I have both a black and silver marker prepared for either one of those. I will sign it and she will sign it. This awesome book, The Haiku Economist, low price, $50. Who will do it? $50. Look, I'm going to be famous one day. You're going to like that. Come on, when I'm famous, come on. There we go. That's what I thought. 50. Who will go $100 for this book? 100. There we go. Who will go 150? 150 to get my signature in this book. I tell you what I will do. I will also get Matt Welch to sign this book. Am I right, Matt? Yes. Me and Matt Welch in the same book, plus the editor. Come on, this is going to be worth a lot of money. Who will go $200 for this book? $200 to get me. And Matt Welch is tired. He's falling asleep. He'll write all kind of crazy stuff. I've seen him write terrible stuff. Who would do this for $200? $200 to support the party. Support the party. Some of you already had your hands up for the other book. You don't like this book? Come on. There we go. $200. That's what I thought. Good. $200. We'll go 250. If someone goes 250, here's what I would do. I will sign the book with vulgarity. That's what I would do. We got $200 right now. You will get vulgarity from me. 250. 250. There we go. Yes, excellent. 250. Matt, can I get vulgarity out of you? You're going to get it anyway. So yes. All right. Matt and I will both do vulgarity at $300. Who will go $300 to get Matt and I both to sign this with vulgarity? Come on, we're famous. $300. $250 right now. We get $300. You get both of us, whatever you like. $300. $250 going once. This is a once in a lifetime. There we go. $300. Thank you so much. $300. Excellent. Awesome. Who will go 350? $300 right now. Who will go 350? 300 going once. All right, Elizabeth, will you do vulgarity? Oh, look at that. That's worth $400 right there. Golly gosh. Did you hear golly gosh? There we go, yes. 3 pieces of vulgarity to get this. You were at 350, correct? Yes. Who will do it at $400 to get all 3 of us vulgarity? $400. All 3 of us vulgarity. Come on. 350 going once. 350 going twice. Sold 350. And you're saved, Elizabeth. No vulgarity. Yes. I have only one more thing. This is the coolest of them all, though, to tell you the truth. I've suckered the other you people out. This is the coolest one. This is actually a box full of matches. Why is that cool? Because the matches say, smokers, have you had enough of getting kicked outside in all kinds of weather? Libertarian, 1-800-ELECT-US. What year is this from?
Sharp 2020.
No, it is not. Thank you, but no. Do you remember what year it's from? I think this is, I think it might be even the 90s, right? 90s. This was the 90s. And I have a whole box full of them. The 90s. 1-800-ELECT-US. And if you want, guess what? I'll sign it. And so will Matt Welch. I just always make him sign stuff. He should not come around. I always make him sign stuff. Yes. One day it's going to be like his mortgage. I'm going to have that taken care of. You won't even know. So who will take care of this? $50, and this is just 50. Great. Who will go $100? $100. The same thing. $100. Excellent. Who will go 150? 150. Right now we have $100. Whoa, $100 right now. Who will go 150? This now look. You can put each of these in like every table in your house. Come on. You could put these in the bathroom. You could put these in your when you go to work in people's desks. You can mess people, put it on their desk. Hey, I don't smoke. Oh my God, you're libertarian. That you could do that. Lots of cool stuff. Right now, $150. Who will go? I'm sorry. No, you're 100. I'm sorry, $100. Who will go 150? $100 right now. Who will go 150? $100 going once. $200. There we go. $200. What I like to see. $200. I love that. Who will go 250? $200 going once. $200 going twice. Sold. $200. Now, I just want to ask one thing before you all run away. I see you running. I see you running. One more thing I want to ask. Is there anyone in this room tonight? Thank you so much for supporting, and many of you gave $500. I really appreciate that. Is there someone in this room tonight who tonight could give $250? There's someone in this room who could commit to $250 tonight to support the party. Someone in this room now who could do that? Commit to $250 to support this party, to move all these great candidates forward. And you're even going to wind up helping out Jeff Hewitt. Come on. I mean, that's something, isn't it? He's one of these candidates. You'll help him too. Wow, Jeff, did not go over well at all. Did not go over well at all. I'm sorry. Did not go over well at all. There we go. Yes, there we go. Someone do it. Excellent. Yes, nice. Will someone else match that 250? Is there someone in the room who can match that? Don't leave Zoltan hanging. Will someone match his 250? There we go. Thank you so much. Thank you for the 250. I appreciate it. Excellent. 250s. Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there anyone here who could do $100 tonight? 100. Excellent. Good. Can someone match that man at $100? 2. I love that. Can anyone? 3. I love that. 3 at $100. Anyone can match them? 3 at $100. Can someone else go? That's 3. Can we get 2 more to go to $500? We got 3. There. That's 4. Can we get 1 more? 1 more at $100 to go to 500. 1 more. There we go. $500. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. Yes. Excellent. Thank you so much. Is there someone in the room who can do 50? $50. Bingo. 50. Thank you so much. Is someone who could match that $50? Don't leave her hanging by herself. That's mean. Thank you very much for being nice. See, he cares about you. Excellent. Anyone else can match $50? There we go. Another one. It's 3 for $50. Anyone else go $50? Can we get 2 more to go 250? 2 more to go 250. Yes, you can. Yes, 4. I love that. Perfect. That's 4 at 50. 1 more. We're at 250, and I promise I will shut up. 1 more to get 250, and I promise I'll be quiet. Can we get 1 more person to get 250? 1 more $50, and we're good. Any more? 5. There we go. $50. Thank you so much. 250. Thank you so much. Excellent. Now, I know I was a nudge, but I did it on purpose because I want to make sure we understand something. If we raise this money, if we push this party forward, we will make impact. We will change. If we make impact in states like California and New York that everyone thinks no one can make any impact in, if we make impact in these states, you will see the other states fall like dominoes. These states are critical. If we make impact here, we can make impact anywhere. Thank you so much, California. Have a good night.